everybody, this is Greg Meyer. Welcome to the 4th episode of Our Shot. I'm really excited tonight because Our Shot has really been built on the success of what's happened with online organizing since the election. There are so many of you who are watching this because you've used online organizing as a tool to be able to start to make political change. And tonight what we're going to focus on are two of the best organizations in North Carolina that have decided to turn online organizing into real direct action and are already thinking ahead about how we get to wins in the 2018 elections. And I can't wait for you to hear from them and learn from them. First up tonight, we're going to have a couple people from Together We Will North Carolina, one of the state's best indivisible groups. They're going to be talking to us about how they're pushing back against Trumpism and all of the issues that they're taking on. In the final segment of the show, we're going to have some people from Neighbors on Call who are specifically focused on the General Assembly. So you know I got a little special place in my heart for them. We've also got a brand new feature for you tonight. You're going to find out about it as we head into the transition between segments 1 and 2. I'm going to save that for a little bit to give you a little bit of a surprise, but I think you're going to have a good laugh and probably enjoy it a little bit. Before we get to talk to our guests, I want to give you a little bit of an update on some things that I think you might be hearing about in North Carolina. Number one, I'm getting tons of questions about gerrymandering. Almost every week, people are asking me what's happening with gerrymandering, what's happening with our court case, what's happening with the bills that have been introduced. So here's a little bit of an update. In earlier episodes of Our Shot, we explained to you that we are very hopeful that we're going to have more fair districts in the future because we won a court case in the Fourth Circuit Court that said North Carolina districts were an illegal racial gerrymander and we should have brand new elections in 2017 with a new set of maps that should be more fair than the ones that we were under from 2012 up through 2016. The Supreme Court put a stay on that. Chief Justice Roberts put a stay on it, and the court has not taken action on that. So what do we learn from that? Number one, it is probably getting to the point where it's too late to have a 2017 special election. The court could come back and rule tomorrow, and maybe that would be enough time, but the later that we go into the spring, into April and May, the less likely it is to have a 2017 special election. But have no fear, we are still definitely having a 2018 General Assembly election. We always do. Every seat in the North Carolina General Assembly is up every 2 years. And we still feel confident that our win in the Fourth Circuit Court is going to hold and that we're going to have new maps for 2018, which should give us the best chance that we've had since 2010 to be able to take back power in North Carolina. Now, when will we know officially from the Supreme Court? That's the question that everybody wants to know, and the truth is the Supreme Court doesn't tell anybody when they're going to make their rulings, and they haven't even decided, are they going to hear our case? Are they going to send it back to the Fourth Circuit to consider again with advice from another ruling they've given? We don't know what they're going to do. But we are optimistic that even with a full 9-member Supreme Court now, that we still have the chance to win because we've seen a consistent set of wins for the plaintiffs in redistricting cases against gerrymandering, so we're hopeful about that. So that's the courts. Now let's talk about bills in the legislature. There have been several bills introduced at this point that would get rid of partisan gerrymandering and set up some type of nonpartisan redistricting process. The one that most people know about is House Bill 200, but there's a few others. Truthfully, I don't believe that any of those bills are going to pass during this legislative session. I believe that the only way we get to the place where we have agreement on ending gerrymandering is if Democrats pick up enough seats in the 2018 elections that we may either take back the House or take back the Senate. And if we did that, the first bill that I think we would introduce would be a nonpartisan redistricting bill. Or if we don't take back enough, if it's clear that we're breathing down the necks of the Republicans, that 2020 is our chance to take back the General Assembly, then they may be looking ahead and thinking it would be better to have a nonpartisan process than to face losing the majorities in 2020. So we're working towards nonpartisan redistricting. We're not there yet. Let's talk about issues for a couple minutes. Besides gerrymandering, what do we have going on in North Carolina? We had the partial repeal of House Bill 2, a step in the right direction, not far enough as far as I'm concerned. I have a video that you can watch on my Facebook page with more of my comments on that, so I'm not going to go into that. But apparently, after everything we learned about House Bill 2, the Republicans have not had enough, because yesterday they introduced 2 crazy bills. One bill that would repeal gay marriage, even though the Supreme Court has already ruled on that. Why in the world they think that makes sense, I don't know. They introduced another bill that would require all University of North Carolina schools to withdraw from the ACC and the NCAA if those two organizations ever boycotted the state again. It's crazy. Both of these bills make no sense. The good thing is I don't think they're going to pass. There are enough people in the Republican Party who learned their lesson from House Bill 2 that they're not going to put something dumb like those onto the floor for a vote. But holy cow, the fact that they would even introduce them, I'm not quite there. What I think will happen is that there is going to be some negative legislation over the next couple weeks. I think that after their failure on House Bill 2, after they had to repeal it and take the loss on that, you're going to see that Republicans are going to want retribution, and you're going to see a couple of really nasty anti-immigrant bills. You're going to see some more voter repression attempts coming on. You're going to see a nasty anti-abortion bill. All of that stuff is coming within the next 2 weeks because of some technical things in our calendar related to the crossover deadline, which I won't bore you with tonight. But get ready next week and the week after for some really nasty fights in the General Assembly. We're going to need you and your organizations to be organized and ready to come down and help us push back against some of those things that come across in the next couple of weeks. Get connected to some advocacy organization that's going to help you know what's moving and when, because the Republicans will use all the tricks they can to make sure that those bills move secretly and at the last minute, and they make it hard for you to organize. But we're going to need you to be smarter and ready and louder and come down and make yourselves heard. The other thing that I want to mention is I want you to pay attention to some of the things that have flown a little bit under the radar, but the Republicans are consistently chipping away at Governor Cooper's powers. They've continued to push the reform of the election board. That's bad. They've started to take away the governor's powers to make appointments to things like community colleges. And so just watch and see that this is not a fair playing field right now. They're using everything they can to keep all the power for themselves. And why can they do it? They can do it because of gerrymandering. Because they're in districts where they're rewarded for playing to their base rather than districts that reward us for moving towards consensus and compromise decisions that are good for the entire state. And so we got to get rid of gerrymandering if we want to get rid of this crazy stuff that's happening in the General Assembly. Whew. Sometimes, y'all, it is not an easy place to be. Luckily for me, I have some great colleagues in the General Assembly. There are some amazing people that serve with me, and so we're going to go into the break right now, and this is our new segment. We're going to, in the breaks between our guests here on the live show, I've got a couple pre-recorded segments for you, and these are designed to introduce you to some of my Democratic colleagues, to show you a little bit about what they care about, a little bit about who they are. Hopefully it's a little bit entertaining for you. And so right now, we're going to have you watch a video with my great friend and colleague from Wake County, Yvonne Holly. Meet Yvonne, and I'll be back in a minute with some guests from Together We Will, North Carolina. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Hit the share button. Make sure you get this out to everybody. See you in a minute.
Oh, Lord. We're rolling.
Oh, we're rolling. Okay.
All right, we're rolling. All right, hey, everybody. I'm joined by State Representative Yvonne Holly from Wake County, who sits in front of me on the floor of the House, and she agreed to come play a little word association game for us today. You ready, Representative Holly?
Oh, I guess so. Let's see what you got.
All right. I'm going to say a word. You just tell me first thing that comes to your mind. First word is gerrymandering.
Bad deal.
House Bill 2.
Heartbreaking.
The Democratic Party.
Future.
Excellent. I like it. Food deserts.
Feed the hungry.
Excellent. Her signature bill addressing food deserts. Look it up. What's the bill number?
387.
387. All right. Next word, Trump.
Bless his heart.
Good Southern lady. All right. 2018.
Victory.
2020.
Major victory.
Yes. All right. And the Village People.
Macho Man. And YMCA.
All right. Representative Holly had a fundraiser last year with the cowboy from the Village People, and we all got to do it with her. It was amazing. It was like a lifelong dream come true. Okay, who's one elected official who inspires you?
It was Barbara Jordan.
Okay.
It was actually two, Barbara Jordan and Shirley Chisholm. Barbara Jordan was the one that got me interested in politics, and when I was at Howard, I got to work on Shirley Chisholm's presidential campaign.
Excellent.
And that was cool, even though she really didn't win, that was really cool.
Excellent. And I asked Representative Holly to pick out a record to spin on my record player. She got Shaft.
A new theme song. feminized. She's a bad mamma jamma.
You want to tell us why you picked this out?
Oh, because first of all, I mean, everybody needs a thing. And this is a powerful walking thing from a powerful man that took no crap off anybody. Like we're doing here.
Exactly. Right, exactly.
Yes, right.
And tell us about your dad's TV show.
My father used to have a TV show called Teenage Frolics, which was on WRAL for 30-something years. And I had the pleasure of having Isaac Hayes at my home one day for dinner. And he was kind of cool.
I bet he was kind of cool.
Yes,
all right, well, let's listen to some Isaac Hayes. Uh-oh. Fix that. Here we go. Here comes the Isaac Hayes. Are you going to sing along?
Oh, no. Don't need to.
Are you going to dance along?
You just walk in. Don't y'all think that? I said that we should do that on the floor.
Walk in like that? Show me the move?
It's just a walk. It's a walk. You just have to get your own style. You have to develop your own walk.
Well, let me see yours.
You can see my walk?
You go ahead.
No, I'm all right. Mine's a little awkward at the moment. I don't have on heels.
You got the swagger.
Yeah, I got a little swagger. You
I
know?
can't do that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks to Representative Holly.
Somebody asked my brother why did Obama walk the way he did. My brother told him because he can. He can, and it makes you mad.
She's the best, y'all. See you in a minute.
Oh Lord, we're rolling.
Oh, we're rolling. Okay.
All right. We're back, y'all. So I hope you enjoyed meeting Yvonne. We were watching the comments online. I'm glad that it seems like you all got a kick out of seeing Yvonne. She's the best. Yvonne, we love you. I know you were nervous about having that on, but I think people liked it. Y'all, she's a ton of fun and really an incredible thinker, one of our best strategists on how we decide how we're going to fight back against the Republicans. She is not afraid. I love Yvonne Holly. I've got some guests with me. Hey, welcome, y'all.
Hi.
We're here to talk about Together We Will North Carolina, one of the indivisible groups that is working in our state. They're doing incredible stuff. I've got Celicia Averhart and Heather Hazelwood here with me. Why don't you all introduce yourselves, and I want to hear, how did you get active?
Sure. So my name is Celicia Averhart. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. By profession, I'm an attorney. But I really feel like this is really close to home for me with every aspect of my life. I am a black woman that pretty much grew up in the South for most of my life. So I've been able to really go outside of my experience on a daily basis to fit in and to make the most out of my life and for myself. And I try to do that as much as possible, but then when things happened with the elections, I found an opportunity to really do more on the community building aspects of my life. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so some of the things that we've been doing, like we just started off doing a potluck. We were like, you know what, everybody needs to heal right now and talk. Let's bring people together in real life, because we see so many people, you know, just having with all this negative energy, and we really want to channel that passion into action, because this is a time that we need people to remain hopeful, because there's so much that we can get done as bridge builders. There's just so much work that we can do. And so what we decided to do, we got together and said, okay, we want to do more, let's do more. And we've been doing community activities as well as 5-minute of direct action opportunities. And with the 5-minute of direct action opportunities, what I've found is that it helps a lot of different people. A lot of people don't have time. We have jobs, we have families, we have things that we are a part of, and it's really hard for one bad thing to happen to just throw us off our game and say, okay, I'm going to dedicate all my time to this. So for people who this is outside of their experience, but they want to help, guess what? In 5 minutes, you can take out of your day and really, really promote promote the voices and progressive values that you feel that really help people that have nothing to do with your experience. Also, it helps people who this actually affects not have to spend half of their day looking to see what representative they need to contact, need to email, and we give them that information. Our team, we are all volunteer-based, and we have great people helping us. They go through about, 40 reputable sites a day looking for direct action opportunities so that they can filter through them and say, you know what does North Carolina care about and what do we need to focus on today? And our team goes out, puts those together, and then we share them on the internet. And that gives people who are what SNL called the other day armchair activists. Thank you, Scott. It's people just don't know what to do to get involved, and we're giving people real life ways to say, you know what, this is how you can start. If you want to start here. Call your representatives, email your representatives, go to a phone bank training, go to a voter registration training, and we're doing a lot of different things, in-person events and online opportunities so that people can get involved in these kinds of things.
Awesome. So if you want examples of the 5 minutes of action, you can go check out Together We Will North Carolina on Facebook and see what they've put up there. Some of the things that they've done were pertinent to that day. Some of them could be done on any day.
Oh, yeah.
So any group that's out there that wants to see some of that stuff, go check it out.
Mondays and Thursdays.
Mondays, two times a week, Mondays and Thursdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Heather, tell us about yourself and how you got involved with this.
I'm Heather Hazelwood. I live in Durham. I moved here from Wisconsin 2015, and I've been involved in progressive politics off and on for a long time, and I was a volunteer in Tammy Baldwin's first federal campaign back in Wisconsin when I was an undergrad. Nice. And as time went on, living in Wisconsin, I saw some stuff. I saw the writing on the wall, and as this presidential campaign unfolded, I made a commitment to myself to be more involved and started really volunteering with the campaign. And I decided to go work at the polls. I was actually one of those folks in Durham who was there when the machines went down.
Wow, right.
Our machines didn't go down, so I don't know what happened. But so I was one of those people who woke up the day after the election, after it really not getting much sleep, and didn't know what the heck to do. And I decided it was just time to do more. And so I spent the next week looking around to see what was going on online and reaching out to folks and then making a commitment to take it beyond that. I didn't want to just be sitting behind my computer posting things and sitting in the echo chamber of telling like-minded folks what we all already agreed to. And so I reached out to some folks and said, hey, do you want to have a potluck? It just started out literally as a potluck in November, and then we had one in December, and then people started asking, let's actually do more. And so we all got together and decided to do more.
Yeah.
And then one of the first things we did was we started this yard sign project. We've sold more than 500 of these around Durham mainly, but now we have distribution points all over North Carolina. And it gives the message that we're glad you're our neighbor in English, Spanish, and Arabic. And it's amazing, the response to these signs. We sell them for just barely over cost. And it was one of the easiest ways that I could see for people to reach out to one another without having to it was the first brave step, and then maybe you'll take the next brave step of going to a meeting, going to an action, volunteering your time. You never know where it's going to start, but the first thing can be saying, hey, you're not alone. We're glad you're our neighbor. We don't support this craziness. You're safe with us.
So shout out to my neighbor Liz Ryan for having one of these up on our street. Good job, Liz. All right, so I want to hear about your connection to Indivisible. A lot of people know Indivisible.
Yeah.
Indivisible is organizing pushback against the Trump agenda in Washington. So talk to us about what you're doing.
Sure. So it's a kind of a funny story. Early on, Celicia and Tanya and I and Andrew, the four people who really started to push this forward, kept hearing from people, have you heard about this Indivisible Guide thing? And
Every day.
and people kept posting it to our Facebook page, and it kind of became an inside joke. We've heard about it. Yeah. Have you read it?
I did.
Yeah. But the reason everyone cared so much is because it finally told everyday folks what happened, right? How the Tea Party took over, and it kind of provided a roadmap for federal politics, at least, of how to do what the Tea Party did, and maybe win back representation.
And still be within our values.
Yes.
Because that's
right.
important.
Yes, that's definitely.
Tea Party methods, not Tea Party values.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and so then they started, groups started popping up all over the country, all over the world, and so then groups were asked to register with the national group, so we did. And it's really become this amazing connection for us because it also led us to the Together We Will national group that became our, mama group, I guess.
Yeah, our USA group.
Our USA group. And within North Carolina, it connected us with other North Carolina groups and got us involved in a group called Indivisibles NC, which is just a coalition of other indivisible groups. And now we're working on projects with more than 80 indivisible groups all across the state.
Wow.
We were the driving force behind the Russian Ties postcard project to Senator Burr when I called his office in Wilmington to see if they'd gotten our postcards, the one with the red tie.
They got a lot of them.
He's like, yeah, we got some. 8,000 some.
Yeah.
8,000. Great.
Yeah.
Good job. Well done.
So, the indivisible strategy was based on what the Tea Party did under the rules that used to be abided by in federal politics. It's a little bit up in the air whether or not we'll be able to follow it exactly because they're not playing by the same rules anymore, but we're adapting.
That's right. We can create a better game
Yep.
than the Tea Party
Yep.
created anyhow. We don't
That's
have to
right.
do it exactly.
Exactly.
The way they did.
Exactly.
Why?
Yeah.
Because we're actually showing them how the game is done right. Because we're putting morals back into it. Like Reverend Barber said, we've got to put morals back into politics, and the Moral Monday movement is a great example and something that we should try to emulate. And I think that what he's doing is great, and we have different organizations that we can now share that message with on a larger scale to all North Carolinians.
The inclusivity and multi-dimensional aspect is amazing.
So I want to hear from you guys, because I ask everybody, what are your core values? So you're doing this in a values-oriented way. For you personally, Salisha, what are your core values that are driving this work?
Dismantling white supremacy. That is what I would love to see. And honestly, in order for us to do that, we've got to build bridges with communities that don't normally know what we're talking about. So when I say that we're getting together and trying to bring people out, get people outside of the internet to come down and do something simple as having a potluck or maybe having coffee together. What we want to do is show people that not everybody who shares your same values looks like you. And when you bring that aspect into the mix, you start showing people what their implicit biases are, and they're able to actually start growing from that. If I'm sitting in a room with somebody that I might look at and say, oh, that's a Trump supporter, why do I really want to waste my time there? And then that gentleman or lady walks up to me and says, I'm so sorry this is going on. And then that person might say back to me something that I find really offensive. I can then look at that person and say, I'm really glad that you're sitting down in this room to support me. Here's how you can do it better, and explain it to your family and friends.
Awesome.
Go and do that. And then they'll actually do it. And so that's been really, really, that's been something that's really close to my heart that I really love seeing and doing. And I really want to show more people. We have so many people in red areas of North Carolina, people of color and white people, who want to figure out how they can communicate together and really build their community up. And some of those things are as simple as having a yard sign in your yard to let somebody know, what, you're not alone. I'm here for you, and I want to learn from you. I want to learn why I'm not getting this, and why do people take my passion and turn it into something negative. And it's probably because they said something really offensive, but they're not sure that that was offensive. And people need to be able to go out there and say, hey, and we need people of color and white people to step up to the plate and say, I get that your passion is right, but the things that you're saying are not making the messages align. And so we've got a lot of bridge building to do in North Carolina, and a lot of opportunities to stay true to our progressive values, and a lot of room to grow. And that's something that I'm obviously really passionate about.
Love it. It's great. Heather, what about your core values?
I think the first point is community building, which I think is a lot of what Salisha was exactly saying. And this idea that we're not going to get through this and to the next stage without having some of those difficult conversations. It might be with people who don't look like you. It might be with your parents. It might be with your neighbor. But, you know, what we all experienced in November didn't just happen. It wasn't a blip. It was a long slide that's been going on for a real long time. And we had an event with Mandy Carter that really reminded me of that. You know, and the day after the election, I was lucky enough to be with one of my very best friends, and she kept just saying to me, Heather, we live on stolen soil. We live on stolen soil. And I was like, right, this has been going on for so long. So it's about community, and it's about talking to other people and actually doing something and giving people an opportunity to take a small step that can become a bigger step, that can become a real change.
Great. Yeah, excellent. So we're running out of time, but we're going to take a couple questions.
Okay.
So did either of you find a question from an audience member that you want to answer already?
I did. I found a question from, let me see, Bridget McCurry. She asked, why are we relying on nonpartisan organizations to fight these issues? And I thought that was a really great question, Bridget. And I want to help answer that question for you. So Together We Will North Carolina, we are registered as a nonprofit, but we have not sought status, either 501c3 or 501c4. So we can be as political as we want to be, and I encourage other people to do that. The way that we have taken on things like these signs, a lot of people sell them, and you know, I'm not knocking anybody who sells the sign to like try to use it as a fundraising effort, but because this isn't a fundraising initiative for us, but it's a community building initiative for us, we sell them at cost, pretty much at cost. We might make like, what, $2?
We don't make any money. The first
Until we sell-
we sell 76 signs. The 76th sign out of 100, we then make $2.
We make $2 for 25 signs. And after selling 75. So that's something that, because we really, really care about community building, we'll sell T-shirts and other types of paraphernalia to get some fundraising, because donating to organizations that, you know, are reputable and have a good message, that's really important. But so is community building, and we shouldn't let our fundraising goals overshadow what we really need to be doing in the community, because when we think about systems of oppressions, nonprofits are in that too. So we can't overlook that and say, oh, I, Celicia Averhart, am going to go to this space so that I can build something for myself. Or Heather can build something for her. That's not what it's about. Like, we have to be willing to take the hit, whether it's on, you know, paying some taxes for our nonprofit organization, or going and saying, you know what, I'm going to align myself with the Democratic Party on this issue, because I think the Democratic Party has it right on this issue. So then we can go there. But if they didn't, guess what? I can just as easily say, you know what, Greg's got it wrong on something too, because I'm not with the Democratic Party at the end of the day. I'm with my nonprofit and doing things to support the goals and the values that we have in North Carolina. So I hope that answers your question. So even though we are in a sense nonpartisan because we can work with both parties, we also encourage Republicans to come out. Like, you know, a couple of my best friends are lifelong Republicans, and
You know how that sounds, right?
yeah, it sounds really weird. It sounds really weird, but it's true, and it's because if we focus on the issues and not where we lie politically, then we can actually get work done, because people of color in this country can be Republican or Democrat and still suffer the same thing. You can be poor, you can be rich, as long as your skin is black, that cop's gonna pull you over and might, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that can happen, and when we look at it as a Democratic thing versus a Republican thing, we're really closing doors that we can really use as bridge building conversations to talk to our neighbors and talk to our friends, so that maybe more people can start talking about the issues that they care about and vote according to their issues instead of being so party loyal.
And I'm just going to add to this answer that, to me, as an elected Democrat, it's important to have nonpartisan organizations that work on advocacy issues, because a lot of those issues shouldn't be partisan. Equality shouldn't be partisan. Abortion access shouldn't be partisan. Environmental protection shouldn't be partisan. I want them to be working in nonpartisan ways. I want my party to also fight for those things, but there should be a lot of middle ground, and we need those organizations to do that. Heather, you have a question?
I do, and
Go ahead.
I'll try to be quick. So Andrea asked something we hear a lot. There seems to be all these political groups that either are already existing or have popped up since the election working on progressive issues, but how can we be sure we're not recreating the wheel, and how are we coordinating and collaborating? Well, first off, we definitely are coordinating and collaborating. The Indivisibles NC, 80 plus indivisible organizations talking to each other, working together. That's happening already. Together We Will, North Carolina, is connected to a lot of other organizations, local ones in North Carolina and statewide ones. And we are definitely trying to not, quote unquote, recreate the wheel. But on the other hand, having as many opportunities as possible for folks to find their place to get involved is important. And we're still in real early days here. So,
Right. So you have the Indivisibles coordinating group, you have the National Together We Will coordinating group. There's also Everyone's NC.
Yes, Everyone's NC.
I was just about to
coordinating all
mention
the
them.
online groups. If your online group is not connected with Everyone's NC, you need to find them on
Yep.
Facebook and organize with them. And then Progress North Carolina is helping to provide tools for all these groups. And so there's lots of ways that the coordination is happening.
it's happening.
And we want to use our shot to help make sure everybody's headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for this set of guests. There's so much more that y'all could teach us. Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to
you.
go
Thank
into
you.
another game of word association. This time you're going to meet my good friend Brian Turner from Buncombe County. And thank you all for coming on.
Thank you
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Hello, people. It's Mutt and Jeff. It is the Mutt and Jeff Show.
Hello, Representative Holly.
Hi. So tell me, what do y'all think about politics in the General Assembly?
Is it taping?
So 45 seconds.
Oh, it is?
Did
All
you
right.
tape it? Is that what that is? Isn't that what they're saying?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay.
All right, here we go. All right. Okay, hey, everybody. I'm here with Brian Turner, state representative from Buncombe County, who we get confused for each other every day.
Yes, which is why I'm not wearing a jacket during this video, so people can tell us apart.
Everybody knows who's Brian, who's Greg. We're going to play a little political word association game for a second. Brian has not been prepared for this. So, Brian, I'm going to say a word. You're going to just tell me first thing comes to your head. Ready?
Okay.
Gerrymandering.
Unfair.
Okay. HB2.
Repeal and replace.
Okay.
Repealed and replaced.
Democratic Party.
The best.
All right. Asheville.
Almost as good as the Democratic Party.
All right. Trump.
My district.
Ooh, ouch. Ooh, okay. 2018.
An opportunity to give Governor Cooper his majority.
Great. 2020.
An opportunity to re-elect Governor Cooper and take over the Senate,
Excellent. MTV.
where I spent 10 glorious years working.
Former MTV guy. So, last question before we talk music for one more second.
Okay.
Who is one elected official who inspires you at any level?
Oh, gosh. I would say former Representative Rick Glazier.
Because?
Because, well, he was my mentor during my freshman year here, and he was insightful and he knew the law better than anybody else, and he had such a way of making an argument that would disarm opponents, but he didn't make them feel small doing it.
And Representative Glazer is currently the executive director of the North Carolina Justice Center, so we're still benefiting from his expertise in this state.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a record player in my office. I asked Brian to pick out a record, and you want to tell him what you chose?
Sure. I'm a big fan growing up of country, particularly outlaw country. And Merle Haggard passed away not too long ago. And one of my favorite songs of his is "The Fight Inside of Me," which is where the GOP should not end up.
All right, here we go. Merle Haggard, "The Fight Inside of Me," from Brian Turner, Buncombe County. Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg.
All right, welcome back, y'all. Hope you enjoyed meeting my good friend BT from Buncombe County. I've got our next guest here. We're going to jump right in. I've got Becca Zirkin and Andrea Stein from Neighbors on Call, another phenomenal grassroots organization that has just popped up since the election that are focusing on statewide issues and not as much on the national level. So, again, give us your introduction and how did you get involved with this? Go ahead, Becca, start us off.
I wasn't that involved in politics, but I started volunteering for the Hillary Clinton campaign in September, and I just kept showing up, so I kept getting more responsibility. And we thought we were doing great, and then didn't go well November 8. We had made all these fantastic friends, though, and had such strong bonds with the people who had come to canvass and make phone calls. And when November 9th came, we thought it would be such a shame to let those wonderful relationships go when we now all have so much work that we need to do. And so Andrea and I decided that we wanted to do something about that.
Excellent. And you are.
Yeah.
Andrea, what about you?
So we both kind of came to the campaign around the same time. And really it was, I remember like early in the morning, November 9th, we sat down at Becca's kitchen table and talked, okay, what are we going to do?
So a lot of people have November 9th stories. I have a November 9th story. You guys have a November 9th story. So what are the values that are driving each of you in this work?
So I think one of the most important things to me is just kind of a very basic sense of like fair play, kind of the sense that I've had, and I think most of us have ever since like childhood of like, this isn't fair. And particularly when I think, for instance, about the gerrymandering situation or how certain votes have been suppressed through voter ID laws. It just so fundamentally doesn't feel fair that I feel like we have to do something. And also just a desire, I think, to pursue equality, whether that means equal rights or equal access to basic services, things like education, healthcare, and so on.
Awesome. Love it. That's a great use of that equality frame to cover a whole bunch of issues. Fantastic. Becca?
I think it's pretty, there's something that we all share that I think is pretty simple, which is I care about my kids a lot, and I think other people are just like me in that they care about their kids, they care about their neighbors, and it's not enough for me to just do something that's good for my family. What I learned from my grandparents and my parents was even if your situation is great, you still have a responsibility to help other people so that everyone who loves their kids just as much as you do has as much as you do and has access to education and clean air and clean water and all the things that we all need and want. So I feel it's my responsibility to help the state.
Great. So you guys are repping your great Neighbors on Call shirts. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Neighbors on Call is doing?
We are a community of Democrats who get together for events to learn about issues, to act together, and to make connections that are going to last because we're in this for the long haul. We need to stick it out for a while.
And how many people are in Neighbors on Call right now?
I think last we checked we had about 425 members.
Pretty awesome.
We're excited about the growth.
So what are you doing with 425 people?
So we're kind of planning on two levels. I think one of them is how do we engage in the here and now. So we send out our weekly email as kind of the bread and butter of our activities. And it might have an action phone call to call your representative, or come to the NCGA for this lobby day to amplify the message from this organization. And also just getting together to learn. We just wrapped up a series we call Policy Made Easy, where we kind of studied, our research team presented to us in different policy areas, okay, what's going on in the NCGA right now? What do I need to know for now? And also as I start to look towards 2018.
Great. Is any of that policy stuff available online for anybody who wants to find it?
Absolutely. If you go to our website, neighborsoncall.org, you can click on the research link and it'll take you right to a folder with all those presentations.
Excellent. And you guys have thought a lot about how what you're doing now is going to turn into results in the next elections. Can you talk about that some?
Well, we have structured this group so that we can support the work of nonprofits who are experienced in all of these issues of policy areas that we're concerned about, but also so that we can help elect Democrats. So we are ready to be the foot soldiers to do whatever needs to be done in the 2018 and 2020 elections.
So what do you think you're going to do?
Well, you tell us. We're ready.
We're boots on the ground.
We're boots on the ground. We'll canvass, we'll phone call, You tell us what
Well,
you
I
need
mean,
from us.
That's part of some of the big stuff, right? We're going to need people who are going to be able to put person hours in. We're going to need people who are going to get connected to a campaign in a competitive district and knock on doors, or if you can't go knock on doors, to get on the phones. You have divided up into chapters, right? And so how could you use, here's what I would wonder, how could you use your chapters to each, say, own a race that they're going to partner with and support them?
Well, we're counting on the Orange County Democratic Party, Nan Nixon is really helping to drive that, and so we're ready to be her foot soldiers. So now with our chapters, because we've grown so big, we want to be able to localize a little bit more and be able to have events that reach people in all outside of Orange County, in Chatham, Alamance, Durham, Wake, and so by drawing more members in those areas, because we'll be able to host more events in those areas and have chapter leaders there, that those neighbors on call will develop their own bonds where they'll become a community and they'll be ready to activate for whatever's happening in their neck of the woods.
Go ahead.
Sorry. And I think in addition to that, the more that we see locally of the NCGA and of kind of what's going on, the more motivated we are, and kind of the more we can kind of push ourselves to, okay, what can we really contribute to this election? Where can we go to really amplify other counties' work? So I think we're getting geared up, to both grow our media base and also go far afield when we need to.
So I know that you guys are already reaching out to some other counties, working with that project that you talked about to try and find some partnerships, but there may also be people watching around the state who know that they're going to want help, and so maybe you guys can reach out to Neighbors on Call, let them know what's going on in your area, see if there's possibilities. In where I live in Orange County and where Neighbors on Call has been based, hopefully we have representatives that are going to be able to stay in the General Assembly. It's going to be other places where we're going to need to try and flip some seats and win some competitive races. So our ability to use your volunteer power to go out and support other races is going to be great. Do you have a couple questions you want to take on? Have you found anything yet?
Well, Isabel, you just threw me a softball. Thank you very much.
Loyal viewer.
Loyal viewer, thank you very much.
What your group is good for.
Neighbors on Call member. Isabel.
That's right. And chapter leader. She asked me, will Neighbors on Call ever grow geographically? Well, so the chapters, it does answer that in that we are already spreading out more with our chapters. But also, Andrea and I worked really hard to develop this structure so that it's replicable. We've thought very deliberately about how to make all of the roles that make the wheels turn be fit within our three teams, which are the volunteer management team, the researchers, and our organization liaisons who connect with nonprofits that we want to follow and amplify.
So volunteer organization, telling everybody what they should do.
Like organizing events. They're the people who keep us bonded.
Okay, great. And then the researchers are?
They're learning everything and spoon-feeding it to us.
Okay, and then the third one was?
Organization liaisons. So in order for us to be able to amplify the messages that NCNAACP wants to get out or Planned Parenthood wants to get out, we need to have eyes on them. And so we have folks, our organization liaisons, who are connected with those organizations, and they say, oh, this is what Common Cause is saying is really important to do right now. So we've built this into a very simple, replicable structure. So the answer to can this grow geographically is it is a toolkit that could be employed anywhere in the state.
We're literally talking a toolkit.
Yeah.
We can give it to you.
Yeah.
So wait, can they get the toolkit on your website? Soon.
They should email us.
Email them.
Yeah.
All right. But I want to operationalize this for you. I opened up tonight by telling you that in the next couple weeks, you're going to see a whole bunch of bad legislation happen in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. So imagine that some kind of crazy gun bill comes up, and it comes up at the last minute. It's really difficult for people in public to know what's happening because things in the General Assembly aren't always done in the most transparent way. Maybe you've noticed. I've noticed. But the advocacy organizations have liaisons and lobbyists who are there who know what's going on. So if you're just sitting at home, you're not going to be able to keep up unless you're with one of those organizations. But if you have somebody in your online group who's connected to that advocacy organization, and then they get the thing that says, this bill is going to be heard at 11 o'clock tonight, can we get people at the General Assembly, then your organization will be able to distribute that out very quickly.
Yes.
Smart. You guys
That's
did. It's great.
the idea.
Awesome. Did you find a question, Andrea?
I did see a question. Let me just All right, a question from Anna asking about our involvement in the Democratic Party in addition to Neighbors on Call, and whether energies would be more productively channeled just through the Democratic Party. And I think that's something that we actually have thought about a lot. And we really are, one of our main goals is to help build up the Democratic Party. We think kind of our neighborhood structure is one that could certainly be integrated into the Democratic Party precincts, and that's something that we're really trying to do. So I would say to anyone kind of interested in getting involved and not sure where to go, join the party, join one of these groups. It doesn't have to be one thing, and really it's all about just finding a way that you can get connected and into whatever's happening.
I mean, the Democratic Party has not traditionally done well what it is that Neighbors on Call is doing. The Democratic Party tends to not really engage people all that much in between election cycles on advocacy issues. We depend on the nonpartisan advocacy issues to carry the weight on that. Groups like Neighbors on Call and Together We Will are bridging that gap. And when it gets to election cycle, all of the people that have been staying engaged, educated, passionate, knowledgeable will be able to turn into campaign volunteers.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Any other questions you want to cover?
People are saying very nice things, but we need some
for
more.
the nice
we-
things.
Send us some questions.
Well, here's one last question for you. One of the things, we're going to go to our calls to action in a minute. We always talk about messaging, mobilizing, and sustaining. So I have emphasized a number of times in our chat that part of sustaining is we do have to fund elections. Do you have any things that you're doing to get people to understand that whether it's now or later, they're going to need to put a little bit of cash into the game?
We're explicitly not a fundraising group. We are not a 501c3 because we want to keep that flexibility to be able to coordinate with nonprofits and with the Democratic Party, which is something
You're just a
Felicia
group of
was
people.
talking about before.
Right.
We're just a group of volunteers. That said, we are all learning an incredible amount about what's at stake here and how important the elections are, and that is certainly the preamble to knowing how important it is to support that monetarily. So as a group, we won't be fundraising, but the message about the importance of it, we will be part of.
Be to support that.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, Andrea, Becca, thank you for coming on, telling us about Neighbors on Call. I hope people will look you up online. Thank you for the great work that you're doing. Let's go to the call to action slide. Let's see what our closing message is for tonight. So here's what we're interested in is 3 things. On messaging, number 1, if you're part of an online organization, get your message out to people that you actually know. Get it to people who are on your street, in your grocery store, at your favorite restaurant, so that they are able to get connected to your group and know what they're going to do. Mobilizing, number 2, and you heard Neighbors on Call talk about this, the mobilizing goal is going to be that your online group needs to be connected to those advocacy organizations that are actually doing the work of connecting to what's happening in the legislature or Congress so that they can help you figure out how do you make a difference, when do you need to speak out, what are you going to do, how can you connect to them. And then number 3, sustaining. How can you get your group to start getting your people used to doing some small donations now, thinking about how do we support this organization that we just partnered with so that they can have a lobbyist who's at the General Assembly so that they can be connecting us to what the action is. And then eventually moving towards that place where the people that you have involved are going to recognize that when you're supporting a candidate somewhere, that you need to support them with your time and your energy and your knowledge and a little bit of your pocketbook as well. So those are the 3 calls to action for all you online groups who are out there. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Our Shot. Really enjoyed meeting with these amazing grassroots activists tonight. I hope you appreciated getting to know Representatives Yvonne Holly and Brian Turner. I'm Representative Greg Meyer. This is Our Shot to take back North Carolina, y'all, and we're going to do it. Have a good night.